child to the potential harm of physical injury. Another example is like pushing the child. Pushing the child, uh, it may not cause any physical injury, but it can cause potential harm because if the child is pushed hard enough, the child can sustain some injury. Okay? So this is in the context of relationship of responsibility, trust, or power. Example by a parent, caregiver, or other responsible persons. Yeah. So this definition is by the World Health Organization. So abuse is judged by the impact on the child. So this is important. It's the impact on the child, not the intention of the adult. For example, we always talk about discipline. But remember, discipline becomes abuse if the child experiences fear or, or is humiliated or felt unsafe. Okay? So these are the different types of child abuse. You have physical, emotional, neglect, and sexual abuse. So physical abuse is the intentional use of physical force that results in or could result in injury. Okay, so it tends to be repetitive and escalate over time. Yeah, example, hitting, kicking, shaking, slapping. Okay, or excessive or inappropriate physical discipline. Yeah, for example, this physical discipline, for example, making a child kneel down for long hours as a form of discipline. Okay, so that can result in some kind of fear, anxiety, all right, and causing physical injury through punishment. Emotional abuse, patterns of behavior that harm a child's emotional well-being and self-worth. Yeah. So sometimes emotional abuse is just like below the radar because people are not really aware of what is emotional abuse. So this is when there is examples, yeah, is when there is persistent humiliation or shaming the child, threats or intimidating the child, rejection or withholding love as punishment for the child. Okay? So, neglect is persistent failure to meet a child's basic or psychological needs. I've highlighted this when the parent caregiver is able to do so. Why I've highlighted this is because there may be parents who are really, really poor and they can't provide these basic needs. Okay, so this is important. The one that's highlighted when the parent caregiver is able to do so. So in this picture here, the image here is are the basic needs of the child. Yeah. Okay. So examples of neglect, lack of adequate food, shelter, or clothing. So that's straightforward. Failure to provide necessary medical care, leaving children unsupervised in dangerous situations, failure to protect a child from known abuse, keeping a child home from school repeatedly without reason. So the last one is important. You know, if there's a child who's not attending school repeatedly or a period of time, it's really important to find out what is happening at home. So, signs of child abuse, these are just general warning signs of child abuse, right? Then I'll go into more specific ones related to child abuse, okay? So the general warning signs, if it's physical abuse, for example, look for patterns, not just a one-off sign, sudden changes in behavior, a child becoming fearful, withdrawn, or unusually aggressive, a child avoiding wanting to go home because the abuse is taking place at home, decline in the child's school performance, child doing well, suddenly there has been a decline. Regressive behavior is going into a very childlike state, like being wetting and clinging too much, yeah, becoming very clingy. And specific signs we can look for physical abuse, unexplained bruises or injuries. Unexplained means that if you just ask the child is not able to explain or does not explain to you what happens, or the explanation given is not consistent with the bruises or injuries. Injuries in unusual areas like the back, thighs, the upper part of the arms, and marks shaped like objects, yeah, like belt or using a cord. For neglect, please, you can look out for poor hygiene, consistently using dirty clothing, hungry all the time, untreated medical problems, and frequently absent from school. For emotional abuse, the child expresses, you know, uh, low self-esteem, or the child comes across as having low confidence, right? The child appears depressed, withdrawn, and expressing anxiety or fear. Now, I've made a note here. These are possible warning signs that needs attention. It's not definite proof of abuse. So this is something, this can be warning signs. You need to find out more about what is happening. It's not a definite proof of abuse. So I'm going to move on into child sexual abuse. I'm going to detail about this. And so, in short, I just child sexual abuse. In short, I'll just mention it as CSA. Okay, so CSA is any sexual activity involving a child for the sexual gratification of another person. So it includes manipulation or force a child to participate or observe sexual acts like pornography or indecent activities. Okay, so CSA usually involves misuse of position. So the perpetrator is usually somebody of a position or having power or somebody the child trusts. Okay. So it's also important for all of y'all to remember a child can never give consent to sexual activities. The full moral and legal responsibility lies with the adult. Okay. A single incident, or it can be many acts over a long period of time, can amount. A single incident also can amount to child sexual abuse. Yeah. Usually, CSA will escalate over time, particularly if the abuser is a family member. So, examples of CSA: grooming. Okay. So this is preparation and it's a manipulation phase. More details will come up shortly. So that's grooming, that's verbal abuse, sexual comments, or sexualized, using sexualized languages. Example, requesting for sexual acts or obscene phone calls. All right. Uh, Even making sounds that are sexual in nature through phone calls is considered verbal sexual abuse. Visual, showing pornographic material, taking or sharing sexual images. So making a child is under visual, yeah. Making a child watch sexual acts, sexualized messaging, or online sexual communication. So moving on to physical sexual abuse is inappropriate sexual touching. or any kind of sexual. So, who are these perpetrators? They are usually someone that the child knows, trusts. Yeah. So it can be family members, close relative, because family members, close relative, the proximity allows easy access and to gain trust of the child. It can be an authority figure or a trusted adult. So what happens is trust that the child has on this person is being exploited. Yeah. And most abuse, remember, is not by strangers. It is usually by somebody known to the child. So let's move on to perpetrator victim relationship. So the hallmark of CSA is secrecy to evade consequences. Yeah. So the perpetrator will go to great lengths to keep their actions. And that's why it's so important for us to be aware of these warning signs. Okay? So the first thing that we need to be aware of is grooming. Grooming is a highly manipulative process. So what happens here is the offender tries to build trust with the child, tries to build emotional connection with the child, and tries to make the child dependent on the adult. Yeah. So this what happens is a person gains the trust of a child in order to cross any personal boundaries and gain sexual access. So it can come across, grooming can come across as not really abusive. Okay, so it can appear like this person is just giving special attention or mentoring the child. Sometimes the person can give gifts or take the child out on treats, or sometimes they isolate the child because they want to, they claim they actually want to guide the child. Okay? So it may not look abusive initially. So just be aware of this. I always believe in this gut feeling. When you have this gut feeling that something is not right, please do something about it. So early boundary crossing is the warning sign here. Okay. So for grooming, yeah. So if the person wants to spend time alone with the child and keeping secrets with the child, we find out from the child, oh, this person is telling me, don't tell others. I'm telling you a secret. Okay? Excessive messaging or contacting the child outside of the activities in the church, or if there's a blurring of role where the
Actually
person
kayaking
acts
actually.
like a
You
best
see, yeah,
friend
you see my
rather than
the
an
TV, right?
adult.
Yeah, kayaking in the TV. Yeah, my
So
TV.
this
You
is
can
the
see what I'm
grooming
doing. Right?
process,
That's what I'm
just
doing.
to help you
You can see the
understand
TV.
about
That's what I'm
grooming.
doing.
So what happens is the perpetrator
Come in, sorry.
will try to target the child. So they be on the
First
lookout
on TV and
to
then
target the child,
come
particularly
again.
if the child is vulnerable, violent,
Uh,
and
uh,
there's not much of parental
uh,
supervision. Yeah. Then what happens? They try to gain the child's trust. They establish relationship with the child by giving extra attention, showering gifts, or taking them on outings. And then they emotionally manipulate the child. They isolate the child to have a deeper connection. So this is the part where they'll talk about keeping things secret. I want to tell you something. I'm sure you like me, or I'm sure you love me. I want to tell you a secret. Yeah? Don't tell anybody about it. That's emotional manipulation. And then gradually they cross boundaries. This is when the sexualized behavior starts, like hugging, kissing, watching pornography. This is to desensitize the child. make it look as though this is normal, yeah. So they try to normalize the watching pornography. Introduce after that they introduce the advanced sexual content. And all these things, usually what happens after all these things have taken place, they will inform the child to keep it a secret, right? So they can do it in a gentle way. Like they will say stuff like, "You care for me, I love you, you love me, let's keep this a secret." Or they will threaten the child and say, "If you tell this to anybody, I will harm your mother or father or whatever." So they threaten. Okay? So what happens? Because of this grooming process that's taking place, that has taken place, children develop ambivalent feelings. Yeah, there's this love hate thing. All right, this person is somebody I trusted, somebody I cared for, but what's this person doing this to me? It doesn't look correct. It doesn't look right. So there's this love and hate feelings. Yeah, they get confused and become fearful. Yeah, because of media. So there's confusion about boundaries and relationship. Is this right? Is this correct? What the person is doing to me? And then the conflicting feelings towards a family member or a trusted adult. Okay? So this complicates the process of disclosure. Disclosure is revealing, telling what has happened to them. Okay, and it impacts the healing process as well. So vulnerability to child sexual abuse, these factors do not cause abuse, correct? But it increases a child's vulnerability. So usually younger children, young children emotionally, cognitively, they're still undergoing a very early stage of development, so they don't understand, all right? They can't judge and they don't understand what is happening to them. So younger children may be targeted, children with disability, intellectual, physical, or communication difficulties, children who are undergoing or who have parental neglect, okay, parents are neglecting the child, there's absence of a father figure or mother figure, right? Lack of caregiver supervision. When there's family violence going on or dysfunction in the family, like the child is exposed to domestic violence or there's substance abuse taking on the family. Right? So again, the child becomes vulnerable. So the offender can target this child in the pretext of helping the child. Okay. Just a note here is sometimes uh, the perpetrator can also groom the parents, yeah, in the pretext of helping the family. So they can groom the parents and then they go on to groom the child. Okay. So this is a video. It's a very good video about who was groomed by a neighbor. But I'm very conscious about the time, so I'm not going to show the video. All you have to do is just type in video about Homer, and this thing will come up in the YouTube. Yeah, it's produced in India. It's a very good one to help you understand about. It's a new one. Then there's also online grooming. Online grooming is when a person builds trust with the child through online platforms to lower the boundaries and gain sexual access to exploit the child. So online grooming platforms, they are aware this is through social media, online gaming, dating or chat websites. Yeah. So, possible signs of online grooming is when the child becomes secretive about online activities, spending excessive time online, sudden withdrawal from family or friends, and moving from chats to private platform. Again, uh, I want to make a note here that these are not definitive signs of online grooming, but it could be a warning sign, and it is something that you should look into, particularly parents here.